December 2024. Marcus Whitmore thought the scratching sounds in his mansion's attic were rats, until he found a 9-year-old girl who'd been living there for 4 months, surviving on stolen crackers and rainwater. But when he opened her diary to find out why she chose his attic, the words on the first page brought this ruthless billionaire to his knees. What could a homeless child possibly write that would shatter a man who'd built walls around his heart for 20 years? Marcus Whitmore didn't believe in ghosts, but he was starting to believe his mansion was cursed. The 42-year-old tech mogul sat in his home office on a frigid Tuesday evening, staring at quarterly reports that should have thrilled him. Instead, he felt nothing. The numbers blurred together like they always did lately: profit margins, stock projections, acquisition targets. All meaningless. His phone buzzed. Another message from his assistant, Linda, the 4th one today. Mr. Whitmore, the charity gala coordinator needs your final decision on the donation amount. They've called 6 times. He deleted it without responding. Charity galas were performances, nothing more. Rich people congratulating themselves for writing checks while sipping champagne that cost more than most people's monthly rent. He'd stopped attending them 2 years ago, right after the divorce was finalized. The house creaked above him. Again. Marcus looked up at the ceiling, jaw tightening. For the past 3 weeks, he'd heard sounds coming from somewhere upstairs. Soft thuds. The occasional scrape of something being dragged. His housekeeper, Mrs. Chun, insisted it was the old pipes or maybe squirrels in the walls. But Marcus had paid a fortune for this historic Philadelphia estate precisely because it was supposed to be maintained to perfection. He grabbed his phone and called the property manager. It went to voicemail. Of course it did. Everyone screened his calls now. "This is Whitmore," he said coldly. "I want an exterminator and a structural inspector at the house tomorrow morning. 7 a.m. sharp. I don't care if it's the weekend. Figure it out." He hung up without waiting for a response. That was how Marcus operated now: orders, not conversations. Commands, not requests. It was cleaner that way. More efficient. No one could disappoint you if you never gave them the chance to try. The mansion felt too big tonight, like it always did. 8 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, a library he never used, a dining room that hadn't seen a dinner party in 3 years. He'd bought it during the marriage, back when Jennifer had dreams of hosting political fundraisers and book club meetings. Back when he still pretended to care about things like that. Now it was just him, Mrs. Chun, who came twice a week, and apparently, rats in the attic. Marcus poured himself 2 fingers of scotch and walked to the window. Outside, snow was beginning to fall across the manicured lawn, covering everything in a blanket of white that would be gray and filthy by morning, just like everything else in this city. His reflection stared back at him from the glass. Sharp cheekbones, dark eyes, hair graying at the temples earlier than it should. He looked older than 42. Felt older too. Success, it turned out, was a cold companion. Another sound from above. This time it was different. Not a creak or a scratch, but something that almost sounded like footsteps. Marcus set down his glass and moved toward the hallway. The grand staircase spiraled up through the center of the house, its mahogany banister gleaming under crystal chandeliers. He climbed slowly, listening. Silence. He reached the 2nd floor, then continued up the narrower staircase that led to the 3rd level, the one he never visited. Up here were the old servants' quarters from when the house was built in 1887. Rooms he'd never bothered to renovate or even fully furnish. And beyond that, the attic access. The door to the attic stairs was ajar. Marcus frowned. Mrs. Chun knew better than to go up there. He'd explicitly told her the attic was off-limits until he decided what to do with it. Too many old boxes from Jennifer's family. Things she'd left behind when she walked out. Things he didn't have the energy to sort through or throw away. He pushed the door open wider. The staircase was dark, steep, and narrow. A string dangled from a single bulb at the top. "Hello?" His voice echoed strangely in the confined space. Nothing. Marcus climbed. Each step groaned under his weight. When he reached the top and pulled the light string, a weak yellow glow illuminated the attic. It was exactly as he remembered. Dusty, cluttered, filled with furniture covered in sheets and boxes stacked haphazardly against the walls. cobwebs draped from the exposed rafters like nature's curtains. The air smelled of old paper and mildew. But something was different. A blanket lay crumpled in the corner near the small circular window. A blanket he didn't recognize. It was thin, worn, and definitely not something Jennifer would have owned. Beside it sat a plastic water bottle, half empty, and a small pile of what looked like cracker wrappers. Marcus's pulse quickened. Someone had been here. Recently. He moved deeper into the attic, his eyes scanning every shadow. Behind an old wardrobe he found more evidence. A backpack, its fabric torn and faded. A child's backpack, with faded unicorn stickers peeling off the front. His hand hovered over it. Should he call the police? Was someone squatting in his house? How long has this been going on? Before he could decide, he heard it. The unmistakable sound of breathing that wasn't his own. Marcus spun around. Who's there? The breathing stopped. I know someone's here, he said, his voice harder now, the voice he used in boardrooms when negotiations turned hostile. Come out. Now. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, a figure emerged from behind a stack of boxes near the far wall. That it was a child. A little black girl, no more than 9 or 10 years old, wearing jeans 2 sizes too big and a stained purple hoodie. Her hair was pulled back in 2 uneven braids, and her wide brown eyes stared at him with pure, undiluted terror. She was trembling. Marcus stared back, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. A child. In his attic. How long had she been here? Days? Weeks? Who are you? He demanded, but his voice came out harsher than he intended. The girl didn't answer. She just stood there, frozen, like a deer caught in headlights. Marcus took a step forward. How did you get in here? Where are your parents? Still nothing. But her eyes darted toward the backpack, then back to him. He followed her gaze and noticed something else. A small notebook tucked under the blanket. Its cover was decorated with hand-drawn flowers and stars, the kind of thing a child would doodle during class. A diary. What is that? Marcus asked, pointing. The girl's lip quivered, and for a moment he thought she might cry. Instead, she did something he didn't expect. In a flash, she darted past him toward the stairs, moving with the speed of someone who'd practiced this escape route before. Marcus lunged to grab her, but she was too quick, slipping through his fingers like water. Wait! He shouted, chasing after her down the narrow staircase. But by the time he reached the 2nd floor, she was gone, disappeared into one of the many rooms or hallways of the labyrinthine mansion. Marcus stood there, breathing hard, his heart pounding in a way it hadn't in years. A child had been living in his attic, and he'd had no idea. He climbed back up to the attic, moving slowly this time. The notebook was still there, half hidden under the blanket. Marcus picked it up carefully, as if it might explode. The cover was softer than he expected, worn from use. He opened it to the first page. In careful, childlike handwriting, it read, My name is Ivy Thompson. I am 9 years old. If you are reading this, it means I got caught. Please don't send me back. I'd rather die than go back. Marcus's hands began to shake. He turned the page. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He sat in his office with Ivy's diary on his desk, staring at it like it was a loaded weapon. 3 times he'd picked it up to read more. 3 times he'd set it down. Reading a child's diary felt like a violation, even if that child had broken into his home. But the first line kept replaying in his mind. I'd rather die than go back. Back where? At 6:47 a.m., Marcus called his head of security, David Preston. The phone rang 4 times before a groggy voice answered. Whitmore? It's not even 7. I need you at the house, now, and bring thermal scanners. Thermal scanners? What's going on? Just get here. Marcus hung up. 40 minutes later, David arrived with 2 members of his team, carrying equipment that looked like it belonged in a spy movie. The former police detective was in his 50s, built like a brick wall, with a gray buzz cut and perpetually skeptical eyes. You want to tell me what this is about? David asked as they entered the foyer. There's someone in the house, Marcus said flatly. A child. She's been living in the attic for God knows how long, and now she's hiding somewhere. David's expression shifted from annoyed to alert in half a second. A child? Have you called the police? Not yet. Marcus, if there's a minor, I need to find her first. Marcus's voice left no room for argument. She's terrified. If we bring in uniforms and sirens, she'll bolt or do something desperate. I saw it in her eyes. David studied him for a long moment, then nodded. All right, we'll do a sweep. But after we find her, we're calling child services. No debate. They found her 20 minutes later. The thermal scanner picked up a small heat signature in the library, tucked inside the antique grandfather clock that hadn't worked in decades. David carefully opened the clock's door, and there she was, Ivy, curled into an impossibly small ball, her arms wrapped around her knees. Hey there, David said gently, crouching down. Nobody's going to hurt you, okay? I'm David. What's your name? Ivy didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on Marcus, who stood several feet back, trying to look less intimidating than he felt. Can you come out? David tried again. It's pretty cramped in there. Slowly, shakily, Ivy unfolded herself and climbed out. She couldn't have weighed more than 60 pounds. Up close, Marcus could see how thin she was, her cheekbones too prominent, her wrists like twigs. When was the last time this kid had eaten a real meal? David pulled out his phone. I'm going to call. Wait, Marcus said. Both David and Ivy looked at him. Just give us a minute. David frowned. Marcus, 1 minute, please. After a tense pause, David nodded and stepped into the hallway with his team. Marcus could feel their eyes on him through the doorway, but at least it was just him and Ivy now that he lowered himself into a leather chair so he wouldn't be towering over her. Ivy, right? That's what you wrote in the diary. She nodded once, barely perceptible. Marcus, this is my house. He tried to soften his voice, something he wasn't particularly good at. I'm not going to hurt you, but I need to understand what's happening here. How long have you been in my attic? Ivy's lips moved, but no sound came out. Marcus waited. He was good at waiting. Board meetings had taught him that patience could be a weapon. But this felt different. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a frightened child. Finally, she whispered, For months. For months. Marcus felt something cold slide down his spine. For 4 months she'd been living in his house, and he'd been too absorbed in his own misery to notice. Where are your parents, Ivy? Her face crumpled. Dead. Car accident. 2 years ago. And you've been in foster care since then? She nodded, then shook her head violently. But I ran away. I can't go back there. Please don't make me go back. Back where? The Hendersons. She said the name like it was poison. They hurt me. Mr. Henderson. He. She couldn't finish, but the look in her eyes told Marcus everything he needed to know. His jaw tightened. Did you tell anyone? A social worker? A teacher? I told Mrs. Palmer. She's my caseworker. She didn't believe me. She said the Hendersons are a good family, that I was making up stories for attention. Ivy's voice was getting stronger now, anger mixing with fear. But I wasn't lying. He locked me in the basement when I talked back. He said foster kids should be grateful and shut up. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. He'd dealt with a lot of terrible people in business. Fraudsters, corporate raiders, executives who'd sell their own mothers for a stock bump. But this? Hurting a defenseless child? How did you end up here? He asked. I ran away in August. I lived in the park for a while, but it got cold. I saw your house one night. So big, and there weren't many lights on. I thought maybe nobody lived here, or maybe just during part of the year like a vacation house. She looked down. I found an unlocked window on the side, the one with the broken latch. Marcus made a mental note to fire his property manager. I only came down when you weren't home, Ivy continued. I took food from the pantry, just little things I thought you wouldn't notice. Crackers, granola bars, apples. And I used the bathroom in the hall at night when you were asleep. For months, Marcus repeated, still trying to process it. You survived in my attic for 4 months. I'm good at being quiet and hiding. She said it like it was a skill to be proud of, which made Marcus's chest ache in a way he didn't expect. David appeared in the doorway. Marcus, we need to call this in. I know. But even as he said it, Marcus looked at Ivy and saw her face go pale with terror. Please, she whispered. Please don't send me back. I'll leave. I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. Just please don't call them. Kid, it's not that simple. David started. What if they don't send her back? Marcus interrupted. David turned to him. What? What if there's another option? Temporary custody? Emergency placement? Something? Marcus, you can't just... Can't I? Marcus stood up, and there it was, the boardroom voice, the one that moved millions of dollars with a single decision. I own 3 properties in this city. I have more resources than most small countries. There has to be a legal way to keep her safe while we investigate her claims. You want to take custody of a child you found in your attic? David looked at him like he'd lost his mind. I want to make sure she doesn't get sent back to a place where she's being abused. David pulled him aside, lowering his voice. You understand how this looks, right? Billionaire finds undocumented minor in his house and decides to keep her? The optics are terrible. You'll have police, CPS, and probably the FBI crawling all over you. I don't care about optics. Since when? Marcus glanced back at Ivy, who was watching them with those huge, haunted eyes. About 20 minutes ago. There was a long silence. Then David sighed. All right, I'll call my contact at CPS. Not the hotline. Someone I trust. But Marcus, this is going to get complicated fast. Are you sure you want to do this? Marcus thought about the diary still sitting on his desk. About the words he hadn't yet read. About the fact that for 4 months, a child had been living in his house, terrified and alone, while he drank scotch and felt sorry for himself. Make the call, he said. 2 hours later, Marcus's living room had been transformed into an impromptu crisis center. David's contact from Child Protective Services, a sharp woman named Angela Morris, sat across from Ivy with a recorder and a file folder. A police detective named Lou stood by the fireplace, taking notes. And Marcus's attorney, Richard Beaumont, perched on the edge of a chair looking deeply uncomfortable. Ivy, Angela said gently, I need you to tell me everything about your time with the Hendersons. I know it's hard, but it's important. Over the next hour, Ivy told her story. Marcus forced himself to listen to every word, even when it made him want to put his fist through a wall. The locked basement, the missed meals as punishment, the bruises hidden under long sleeves, the way Mr. Henderson would grab her arm so hard it left marks for days. Angela's expression remained neutral, professional, but Marcus saw her hand tighten around her pen. When Ivy finished, Angela closed her folder. Thank you for being brave, Ivy. I'm going to investigate everything you've told me. Detective Lou will do the same. What happens to her now? Marcus asked. Angela looked at him carefully. That's complicated. Normally, she'd go to emergency foster placement while we investigate. But given the circumstances, she hesitated. Mr. Whitmore, I understand you've expressed interest in temporary guardianship. I have. That's unusual. You're not a licensed foster parent. You haven't been vetted or trained. And frankly, your background check will take weeks. Then start it today. Right now. Marcus leaned forward. I have the space. I have the resources. And I'm not going to let her end up back in a situation where she's in danger. Richard cleared his throat. Marcus, perhaps we should discuss. No discussion. Make it happen. Angela exchanged a look with Detective Lou. I'll need to file an emergency petition with family court. A judge will have to sign off. It's Friday afternoon, so we might not get a hearing until Monday. And until then, she stays with you supervised. I'll be checking in daily. And Mr. Whitmore, Angela's voice turned hard. If I find out there's anything inappropriate happening here, you'll face charges so fast your head will spin. Do we understand each other? Perfectly. After they left, the house felt quiet again. Ivy sat on the couch, still looking like she might bolt at any second. Marcus stood awkwardly across the room, realizing he had no idea how to talk to a 9-year-old. "Are you hungry?" he finally asked. She nodded. "What do you like to eat?" "Anything." "That's not an answer." I like pizza, if that's okay." Marcus pulled out his phone and ordered 3 pizzas plus breadsticks plus salad plus dessert. He had no idea what the kids ate, so he ordered everything. While they waited, Ivy looked around the living room. "Your house is really big. Too big. Are you married? Divorced? Do you have kids?" Marcus felt something twist in his chest. "No. Why not?" "That's complicated." Adults always say that when they don't want to answer. Despite everything, Marcus almost smiled. "You're right. The truth is, my ex-wife wanted children. I didn't. That's one of the reasons she left." "Why didn't you want kids?" Marcus looked at this small, fierce girl who'd survived 4 months in his attic on crackers and determination. "I didn't think I'd be any good at it." Ivy tilted her head, studying him. "You're not that scary. I mean, you're kind of grumpy and you talk loud. But you didn't send me back." "Not yet," Marcus said. But there was no bite to it. "Thank you," Ivy said softly, "for listening. Most adults don't." And that's when Marcus realized something that would change everything. He hadn't felt this much purpose in years. The first weekend was chaotic. Marcus had never taken care of another human being in his life, and it showed. Saturday morning, he woke Ivy at 6 a.m. because that's when he always got up, only to discover that children didn't appreciate pre-dawn productivity schedules. She'd stumbled downstairs looking exhausted, and he'd felt immediately guilty. "Do you want breakfast?" he asked. "What time is it?" 6:15. Ivy blinked at him like he'd suggested they climb Mount Everest. "Can I go back to sleep?" "Oh, right. Yes. Sorry." By the time she woke up again at 9:30, Marcus had already worked out, answered 47 emails, and stress-ordered an entire children's clothing store online because he'd realized Ivy had been wearing the same outfit for 4 months. She shuffled into the kitchen wearing an oversized t-shirt he'd given her to sleep in. Her braids were coming loose, frizzy pieces sticking up in different directions. "I don't know how to cook," Marcus admitted, gesturing at his pristine kitchen that looked like a showroom. "I usually have food delivered or Mrs. Chun leaves meals." "Who's Mrs. Chun?" "My housekeeper. She'll be here Monday." He paused. "Is cereal okay?" Ivy's eyes lit up when she saw the pantry. Marcus had panic-ordered groceries at midnight, and apparently he'd bought 8 different types of cereal without realizing it. "You have Lucky Charms and Frosted Flakes." She looked at him like he was Santa Claus. "I wasn't sure what you'd like. Can I have both? You want to mix them together? Is that allowed?" Marcus realized he had no idea what the rules were. "Sure. Why not?" Ivy created a bowl that was half marshmallows, half frosted corn, and entirely sugar. She ate like someone who'd forgotten what full felt like, and Marcus made a mental note to ask Angela about proper nutrition for kids. After breakfast, Ivy noticed the grand piano in the music room. "Do you play?" "My ex-wife did. I never learned." "Can I try?" "Go ahead." She sat on the bench, her feet dangling several inches off the ground, and pressed random keys. The sounds were discordant but enthusiastic. Marcus watched from the doorway, remembering how Jennifer used to play Chopin on Sunday mornings, back when the house felt alive. "I took lessons once," Ivy said, still plinking away, "before my parents died. I wasn't very good." "How old were you when you lost them?" 7. "We were driving to my cousin's birthday party. A truck ran a red light." She said it matter-of-factly, but her fingers stilled on the keys. "I was in the back seat. I had my seatbelt on. They didn't suffer, that's what everyone told me. Like that was supposed to make it better." Marcus sat down in the chair near the piano. "I'm sorry that happened to you. Everybody says that. But sorry doesn't bring them back." She played another note, then another. "The Hendersons never asked me about them. They said it was better to move forward, not look back." "But how do you move forward when you can't even remember what your mom's voice sounded like anymore?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Do you have any recordings? Marcus asked. Videos? Voicemails? Ivy shook her head. Everything was on my mom's phone. CPS said it was lost in the accident. What about other families? Grandparents? Aunts? Uncles? My dad's parents died before I was born. My mom's mom lives in Jamaica, but she's really old and sick. She couldn't take me. Ivy's voice got smaller. Nobody wanted me. That's how I ended up with the Hendersons. Marcus felt an old, familiar anger rising in his chest. Not at Ivy, but at a system that could fail a child completely. I'm reading your diary, he said suddenly. I started last night. I hope that's okay. Ivy tensed. All of it. Just the first few entries. I thought it might help me understand. She chewed her lip. It's weird, isn't it? That I wrote to you before we even met. Why did you? Ivy thought about it. Because I'd watch you sometimes. Through the floorboards in the attic. There are cracks where I could see down into your office. And you seemed so sad. Like me, but older. I thought maybe if you found the diary, you'd understand why I had to hide. Marcus didn't know what to say to that. He'd spent 2 years thinking his grief was invisible, that his carefully constructed walls were impenetrable. But a 9-year-old living in his attic had seen right through them. That afternoon, David stopped by for a security check. Angela had mandated daily visits, and David took his role seriously. He found Marcus attempting to explain to Ivy why she couldn't go outside yet. It's not safe, Marcus was saying. If the Hendersons are looking for you. But I've been inside for 4 months. I just want to see the sun. The backyard is private, David offered. 20-foot walls, no sight lines from the street. I could do a perimeter check. Marcus looked at Ivy's hopeful face and relented. 15 minutes. And you stay where I can see you. She practically flew out the back door. David watched her run circles around the snow-covered garden. Arms spread wide like she was trying to hug the whole sky. You're getting attached, he observed. I'm following the court order. Marcus, I've known you for 8 years. You don't do anything you don't want to do. David crossed his arms. What's really going on here? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Did I ever tell you why Jennifer left? You said there were irreconcilable differences. That's the legal term. The real reason was we couldn't agree on having children. She wanted them desperately. I refused. He watched Ivy make a snow angel, her laughter carrying across the yard. I told her I wasn't father material, that I'd be terrible at it, that I was too selfish, too focused on work, too damaged by my own childhood to inflict myself on another generation. And now I'm wondering if I was just scared. Marcus's jaw tightened. My father was a tyrant, built his fortune on the backs of people he crushed. When he died, I inherited everything, the money, the business, the reputation. I spent years trying to prove I wasn't him. But maybe in refusing to have a family, I became just as cold as he was. David let that settle. You know temporary custody isn't permanent, right? Even if the judge approves it, even if we prove the abuse, there's no guarantee you'll get to keep her. I know. So what happens when she has to leave? Marcus didn't answer. He didn't have an answer. That evening, Marcus returned to the diary. He sat in his office with a glass of scotch. He didn't drink and read Ivy's words by lamplight. Entry 7, September 3rd. I found out his name today. It's in his mail. Marcus Whitmore. I Googled him on a computer at the library before I had to leave because they were closing. He's really rich, like billionaire rich. He has a company that does something with computers and technology. The articles say he's brilliant but ruthless. They use words like uncompromising and notoriously private. But the man I see through the floorboards doesn't look ruthless. He looks lonely. He sits in his office until really late, staring at his computer like he's trying to find something he lost. Sometimes he falls asleep at his desk. Once I saw him throw his phone across the room. Another time I heard him crying. But I don't think he knew anyone could hear. I wonder what made him so sad. I wonder if he has nightmares too. Marcus's hand trembled slightly as he turned the page. Entry 15, September 24th. I almost got caught today. I was in the kitchen at 2 a.m. getting crackers when I heard footsteps. I hid in the pantry and held my breath until my lungs hurt. Mr. Whitmore walked right past. He looked at the pantry door for a long time. I thought for sure he'd open it. But he just got a glass of water and went back upstairs. I think part of him knows something is here. Maybe not me specifically, but something. Like how you can feel when someone's watching you even if you can't see them. I should probably leave. This is too dangerous. But where would I go? At least here I have a roof. At least here I'm not getting hurt. At least here, even though he doesn't know I exist, I don't feel completely alone. Marcus closed the diary. His throat felt tight. Sunday morning, he woke to find Ivy already in the kitchen, attempting to make breakfast. She'd cracked eggs into a bowl, shells and all, and was staring at the stove with determination. I wanted to say thank you, she explained, for letting me stay, for not sending me back. Have you ever used a stove before? No, Marcus sighed, but it wasn't angry. Okay, first lesson. We need to fish out the shells. They cooked together, or rather, Marcus cooked while Ivy peppered him with questions. Why don't you have any pictures up? I took them down after the divorce. Were you sad? More than I expected to be. Did you love her? Marcus flipped the eggs carefully. Yes, but love isn't always enough. That's depressing. Welcome to adulthood. No thanks. Despite himself, Marcus smiled. When was the last time he'd smiled 2 days in a row? After breakfast, Ivy discovered the library. Marcus found her an hour later, sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by books pulled from the lower shelves. You have so many, she breathed. The Hendersons didn't let me have books. They said I should focus on chores, not stories. Marcus looked at his collection, thousands of volumes he'd bought but never read, expensive first editions purchased as investments rather than pleasure. You can read any of them you want. Really? Really? She picked up a worn copy of The Secret Garden. My mom used to read this to me. We never finished it. Then maybe you should finish it now. That night, Marcus read more diary entries. Entry 23, October 12th. It's getting colder. I can see my breath in the attic now. I took one of the fancy blankets from a closet. I hope Mr. Whitmore doesn't notice. It's cream-colored with little flowers. It's the softest thing I've ever felt. I wrapped myself in it and pretended my mom was hugging me. I'm trying really hard not to cry all the time. But some days it's difficult. I miss my parents so much it physically hurts. Like someone squeezing my heart. The Hendersons used to tell me I cried too much. That I was ungrateful. That other kid had it worse. Maybe they were right. Maybe I'm just weak. But Mr. Whitmore cries too, and he's a grown-up. So maybe it's okay. Maybe being sad doesn't make you weak. Maybe it just makes you human. Marcus set the diary down and walked to the window. Outside, snow continued to fall. Somewhere in this city, the Hendersons were probably sleeping soundly, never facing consequences for what they'd done. Not if he had anything to say about it. Monday morning brought Angela's first official check-in. She interviewed Ivy privately in the library while Marcus paced in the hallway like an expectant father. When they emerged, Angela's expression was unreadable. The emergency hearing is scheduled for Wednesday at 10 a.m. Judge Patricia Moreno will preside. She's fair but strict. The Hendersons have been notified. Marcus's stomach dropped. They're contesting? Of course they are. They're claiming Ivy ran away without cause, that she has a history of lying and behavioral problems. Their lawyer is already painting you as an opportunist who found a runaway and is trying to play hero. That's not. I know it's not. But we need to prepare for a fight. Angela's expression softened slightly. How is she adjusting? Better than expected. She's eating. Sleeping in an actual bed. Reading. And you? How are you adjusting to sudden parenthood? Marcus thought about the scrambled eggs, the mixed cereal, the snow angels, the diary entries that kept him up at night. I have no idea what I'm doing. That, Angela said with the ghost of a smile, is the most honest answer any parent has ever given me. After she left, Ivy found Marcus in his office. Are they really going to try to take me back? He wanted to lie to protect her from the fear, but something in her eyes told him she deserved the truth. They're going to try, but I won't let them. I promise. You can't promise that. You don't control everything. Watch me. And for the first time since her parents died, Ivy Thompson believed that maybe, just maybe, someone was actually going to fight for her. Wednesday morning arrived with gray skies and the weight of a courtroom hanging over the mansion. Marcus stood in front of his closet, choosing a tie for the first time in months. Navy blue, conservative, professional, the kind of armor he wore when billions were on the line. But this wasn't about money. This was about Ivy. Downstairs, she sat at the kitchen table in a new dress Marcus had bought. Simple, navy blue, age-appropriate. Angela had coached her on what to expect, but Ivy's hands still shook as she tried to eat toast. "What if the judge doesn't believe me?" she asked. Marcus sat down across from her. "Tell the truth. That's all you can do. The truth didn't work before. It will this time. I'll make sure of it." David drove them to the courthouse in his personal vehicle, avoiding the media that had somehow caught wind of the story. "Billionaire in custody battle over attic girl" read one headline Marcus had seen that morning. He'd immediately called his PR team and told them to kill every story they could. The family court building was deliberately understated. No grand columns or marble floors, just beige walls and fluorescent lights. It was designed to be non-intimidating, but Ivy gripped Marcus's hand as they walked through security. In the hallway outside Judge Moreno's courtroom, Marcus saw them for the first time. Robert and Patricia Henderson looked exactly like their CPS file photo. Mid-50s, meticulously dressed, Robert in a suit that probably cost half what Marcus paid for breakfast, Patricia in a floral dress with perfect hair and a practiced smile. They looked like the kind of people who volunteered at church bake sales and coached little leagues. They looked like good people. When Patricia saw Ivy, her face transformed into an expression of wounded concern. "Oh, Ivy, sweetheart, we've been so worried." Ivy pressed herself against Marcus's side. Robert stepped forward, his voice dripping with manufactured kindness. "Young lady, you gave us quite a scare running off like that. But we forgive you. Let's just get you home where you belong." "I don't belong with you," Ivy said, her voice small but steady. Patricia's smile tightened. "Now, honey, we know you've been through a lot, but making up stories about us won't help anyone. We've given you a home, food, clothing. You locked me in the basement. That's not true, sweetheart. You must have gotten confused. Stop calling me sweetheart." Ivy's voice was stronger now. "You're not my family. You never were." The Hendersons' lawyer, a sharp-eyed man named Mitchell Barnes, placed a hand on Robert's shoulder. "Let's save this for the courtroom, shall we?" Angela appeared, flanked by Detective Lou. "Mr. and Mrs. Henderson, I'd advise you not to approach the minor until after the proceedings." "We're her legal guardians," Patricia protested. "That's what we're here to determine," Angela replied coldly. Inside the courtroom, Judge Patricia Moreno presided from her bench with an expression that gave nothing away. She was in her 60s, African-American, with silver-streaked hair pulled back severely and reading glasses perched on her nose. The walls were adorned with children's artwork, a reminder that this court dealt with real lives, not just legal abstractions. "This is an emergency hearing regarding the temporary placement of Ivy Marie Thompson, age 9. Judge Moreno began. "Mr. Henderson, Mrs. Henderson, you are the current foster parents and are contesting Mr. Marcus Whitmore's petition for emergency custody. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," Barnes said smoothly. "My clients are bewildered by these proceedings. Ivy has been in their care for 18 months. She's a troubled child with a history of behavioral issues and fabrications. When she ran away, they immediately contacted the authorities. They've been cooperating fully with law enforcement." "Your Honor," Richard Beaumont, Marcus's attorney, interjected. "Ivy didn't run away because she's troubled. She ran away because she was being systematically abused." Judge Moreno held up her hand. "I'll hear testimony from all parties. Ms. Morris, you've conducted a preliminary investigation." Angela stood. "Yes, Your Honor. I interviewed Ivy extensively on Friday. Her account includes specific details about physical abuse, neglect, and emotional manipulation. I also spoke with Ivy's school counselor, who noted a marked change in her behavior after placement with the Hendersons. Increased anxiety, unexplained bruises, reluctance to go home. Barnes scoffed. Bruises that could have come from anything. Children fall, they play rough. As for anxiety, Ivy has experienced significant trauma losing her parents. It's natural for her to act out. Acting out and reporting abuse are two different things, Angela countered. Judge Moreno looked at Ivy. Miss Thompson, would you be willing to speak to me privately in my chambers? Ivy nodded, her face pale. Mr. Whitmore, you'll wait here. Marcus wanted to protest, to be there for her, but he forced himself to nod. Yes, Your Honor. 15 minutes felt like 15 hours. When they returned, Ivy's eyes were red, but her expression was resolute. Judge Moreno's face remained neutral as she reclaimed her seat. I've heard Miss Thompson's account, the judge said carefully. I'm concerned by what she's shared. However, Mr. Barnes, you're correct that accusations alone aren't sufficient. Detective Liu, where is your investigation? The detective stood. We executed a search warrant on the Henderson residence yesterday. We found evidence consistent with Ivy's claims. A basement room with a lock on the outside, minimal furnishings, no heating. We also found a phone log showing that Mrs. Palmer, the assigned caseworker, was contacted by the school 3 times regarding concerns about Ivy. None of those concerns were documented in the official file. Barnes shifted uncomfortably. A locked basement doesn't prove. We also found a camera. Detective Liu interrupted. Hidden in the basement. The footage is disturbing. The courtroom went silent. Judge Moreno's expression darkened. What kind of footage? Ivy being forced to stand in the corner for hours. Being denied meals. Being verbally berated. Liu's jaw clenched. At one point, Mr. Henderson pushes her hard enough that she falls. She's crying, saying she's sorry, and he tells her to shut up or he'll give her something to really cry about. Patricia Henderson's face went white. Robert stood abruptly. Your Honor, we can explain. Sit down, Judge Moreno said, her voice like steel. She turned to Detective Liu. Has this footage been verified? Yes, Your Honor. It's time-stamped, and our tech team confirmed it hasn't been altered. Barnes was sweating now. Your Honor, my clients were attempting to discipline a difficult child using methods they believed were appropriate. Recording her punishment in a locked basement? That's your defense. Judge Moreno removed her glasses. Mr. and Mrs. Henderson, I'm suspending your foster care license immediately pending criminal investigation. Miss Thompson will not be returning to your home under any circumstances. Patricia began to cry. Robert looked murderous. As for temporary custody, the judge continued. Mr. Whitmore, approach the bench. Marcus stood, his heart pounding. You're asking me to place a traumatized child with a man she's known for 5 days, Judge Moreno said quietly. A man with no parenting experience, no training, no background check completed. Can you explain to me why I should do that? Marcus met her eyes. Because she chose me, Your Honor. She could have hidden anywhere in Philadelphia. But she chose my home. She watched me for 4 months before I even knew she existed. She wrote about me in her diary. And when I found her, the first thing she said was, please don't send me back. I know I'm not qualified on paper. I know this is unprecedented. But I can give her something no foster home can. What's that? Safety, stability, and someone who will actually fight for her. Judge Moreno studied him for a long moment. Then she looked at Ivy. Miss Thompson, do you want to stay with Mr. Whitmore? Ivy stood up. Yes. Even though you barely know him. I know he reads my diary every night. I know he lets me mix cereal flavors even though he thinks it's weird. I know he bought me 8 different kinds of shampoo because he wasn't sure which one I'd like. And I know when he promises something, he means it. Ivy's voice cracked slightly. He's the first adult in 2 years who's treated me like I matter. The courtroom was silent except for Patricia Henderson's muffled crying. Judge Moreno put her glasses back on. I'm granting temporary custody to Marcus Whitmore for a period of 90 days, subject to weekly check-ins with CPS, completion of a full background check, and mandatory parenting classes. Mr. Whitmore, if I find out you're taking advantage of this situation in any way, I will personally ensure you never set foot near a child again. Am I clear? Crystal clear, Your Honor. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down, and Marcus felt Ivy crash into him, her arms wrapping around his waist. He hugged her back, and something in his chest that had been frozen for years finally cracked open. But as they left the courtroom, Robert Henderson blocked their path. His lawyer tried to pull him back, but he shook free. You think you've won? Robert hissed. You think money solves everything? That girl is damaged goods. She's manipulative, she's a liar, and she's going to ruin your life just like she tried to ruin ours. Marcus stepped forward, putting himself between Robert and Ivy. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but deadly. If you ever come near her again, if you even think about her, I will use every resource I have to ensure you spend the rest of your life in prison. And trust me, Mr. Henderson, I have a lot of resources. David appeared, placing a hand on Marcus's shoulder. Let's go. They made it to the car before Ivy finally broke down, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Marcus held her, feeling helpless and furious and protective all at once. It's over, he murmured. You're safe now. I've got you. But he was wrong. It wasn't over. That night, after Ivy had cried herself to sleep in the guest room they'd been converting into her permanent bedroom, Marcus returned to the diary. He was near the end now, reading entries from just days before he'd found her. Entry 47, November 28th. I think Mr. Whitmore is going to find me soon. I'm getting careless. I knocked over a box yesterday and the noise was so loud. I heard him come up the stairs. I barely hid in time. Part of me wanted him to find me. Part of me is so tired of hiding. I've been thinking about my parents a lot lately, wondering what they'd think of me now. Would they be proud that I survived? Or disappointed that I had to become a thief to do it? I steal food from Mr. Whitmore's kitchen. I use his electricity, his water, his space. I watch him when he doesn't know. That makes me a bad person, doesn't it? But I don't know what else to do. The world is so big and I'm so small and nobody wants me. Sometimes I think about the truck that hit our car. The driver died too. Did you know that? The police told me later. He had a heart attack at the wheel. So it wasn't even his fault. It was just bad luck. Is that what my whole life is? Just bad luck? Mr. Whitmore seems like he's had bad luck too. I wish I could tell him it's not his fault. Whatever made him sad, whatever broke him, I wish I could tell him that some things just happen and we're all just trying to survive them. Marcus's vision blurred. He turned the page. Entry 48, November 30th. I had a nightmare last night. In it, Mr. Henderson found me. He dragged me back to that basement and this time, he locked the door and never let me out. I woke up screaming. I had to cover my mouth with my hands so Mr. Whitmore wouldn't hear. I'm so scared all the time. Even here, where I've been safe for months, I'm scared. What if they find me? What if CPS forces me to go back? What if nobody believes me? I've thought about telling Mr. Whitmore, just walking downstairs one day and explaining everything. But what if he calls the police? What if he's angry that I've been living in his house? What if he's like everyone else and just doesn't care? But then I remember watching him through the floorboards. The way he sits so still sometimes, like he's forgotten how to move. The way he talks to himself when he thinks no one's listening. The way he fell asleep at his desk with his hand over his heart like it hurt. He's broken too, just in a different way than me. Maybe broken people are supposed to find each other. Maybe that's how we heal. Marcus closed the diary carefully and set it on his desk. Then he walked upstairs to check on Ivy. She was asleep, finally peaceful, clutching the stuffed elephant he'd bought her on impulse at the toy store. In sleep, she looked even younger than 9, small, fragile, innocent. He'd spent 2 years telling himself he didn't need anyone. That solitude was strength. That protecting his heart meant building walls so high nothing could reach him. But this child had climbed through his window, lived in his attic, watched him fall apart, and still decided he was worth trusting. Marcus sat down in the chair beside her bed. I don't know how to do this, he whispered. I don't know how to be what you need, but I'm going to try. I promise I'm going to try. Ivy stirred slightly, murmuring something in her sleep. It sounded like, don't leave. I won't, Marcus said and meant it. The next morning, Marcus woke in the chair beside Ivy's bed, his neck stiff and his back aching. But when he saw her still sleeping peacefully, he didn't regret it. His phone buzzed. A text from David. We need to talk. Now. Marcus carefully extracted himself from the room and called David back. The Hendersons made bail, David said without preamble. Marcus's blood ran cold. What? They were arrested last night on child endangerment charges. But their bail was set low. The judge didn't consider them flight risks. They posted it an hour ago. Where are they now? Unknown. Marcus, I've got a security team en route to your house. Don't let Ivy out of your sight. Marcus looked back toward Ivy's room. They wouldn't be stupid enough to come here. Desperate people do stupid things. I'm 15 minutes out. Marcus hung up and immediately went to check on Ivy. She was awake now, sitting up in bed. Is everything okay? She asked. Reading his expression, he forced himself to smile. Everything's fine. How about pancakes for breakfast? But as they walked downstairs together, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the real fight was just beginning. The pancakes burned. Marcus stood at the stove, distracted, watching the smoke curl up while his mind raced through worst-case scenarios. David's security team had arrived within 20 minutes, positioning themselves around the property perimeter. The house that had felt too large and empty now felt like a fortress under siege. Ivy noticed immediately. You're scared. Marcus scraped the blackened pancakes into the trash. I'm cautious. There's a difference. No, you're scared. Your hands are shaking. She walked closer. Is it because of them? The Hendersons. He wanted to lie to protect her from more fear. But Ivy had survived 4 months in his attic by learning to read people, to sense danger before it arrived. She deserved honesty. They posted bail. We don't know where they are. Ivy's face went pale. They're coming here, aren't they? We don't know that. David has people watching. Nothing's going to happen to you, I promise. But even as he said it, Marcus felt the weight of a promise he might not be able to keep. The morning crawled by. Marcus tried to maintain normalcy. They played cards, watched a movie, started a puzzle. But every sound made him tense. Every car passing on the street outside made his hand drift toward his phone. Around noon, Detective Lou called. We've got a problem. The Hendersons cleared out their bank accounts this morning. $12,000 cash withdrawn. Their lawyer says he hasn't heard from them since bail was posted. They're running, Marcus said. Probably, but there's something else. Mrs. Palmer, the CPS caseworker. She's missing too. Didn't show up for work. Not answering her phone. We checked her apartment. It looks like she packed in a hurry. Marcus's stomach dropped. You think she's involved? The Hendersons paid someone $2,000 cash 3 days before Ivy ran away. We're pulling bank records now. If Palmer was taking bribes to ignore abuse reports, Lou's voice hardened. Let's just say we're expanding the investigation. After the call, Marcus found Ivy in the library, not reading but staring out the window at the security guards pacing the grounds. I made this happen, she said quietly. If I hadn't run away, if I just stayed and been quiet. Stop. Marcus sat beside her. None of this is your fault. The Hendersons are criminals. Palmer was corrupt. You were a child trying to survive. But now you're in danger because of me. I'm not in danger. Yes, you are. I saw how Mr. Henderson looked at you in court. He hates you. Her voice cracked. Everyone I care about gets hurt. My parents died. My foster family gave up on me. What if something happens to you? Marcus pulled her into a hug. Nothing is going to happen to me. And nothing is going to happen to you. You can't know that. I know that I'll do everything in my power to make sure we're both safe. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat in his office, door open so he could hear if Ivy needed anything. The diary sat on his desk, nearly finished now. Only a few entries left. Entry 52, December 14th, Christmas is coming. I can tell because Mr. Whitmore ordered a tree. It's huge, probably 10 feet tall. It's sitting in the living room, undecorated. He hasn't touched it in 3 days. I remember our last Christmas. Mom made hot chocolate with way too many marshmallows. Dad wore the ugly reindeer sweater Grandma sent him and pretended to love it. We watched Christmas movies and ate popcorn until we were sick. That was 2 years ago. It feels like a lifetime. I wonder if Mr. Whitmore is sad about Christmas too. Maybe he lost someone. Maybe that's why the tree just sits there, waiting for someone to care about it. I wish I could decorate it. I wish I could make this house feel less lonely. I wish I could do something, anything, to thank him for giving me a place to hide, even though he doesn't know I'm here. But all I can do is watch, and wait, and hope that someday, somehow, things get better for both of us. Marcus looked at the tree in the living room, still bare. He'd ordered it weeks ago in a moment of optimistic delusion, thinking maybe this year would be different. But he'd never gotten around to decorating it. Tomorrow, he decided. Tomorrow they'd decorate it together. He never got the chance. At 2:47 a.m., the perimeter alarm blared. Marcus was out of bed instantly, grabbing his phone. David's voice came through, clipped and urgent. Northside breach. 2 individuals, 1 male, 1 female. They cut the fence. Where's Ivy? In her room. Team 3 is securing the house interior now. Marcus ran to Ivy's room. She was already awake, eyes wide with terror. What's happening? Stay here. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me or David. He handed her his phone. If anything happens, you hit this button. It calls 911 directly. Marcus. Lock the door, Ivy. Now. He closed the door, heard the lock click, then moved toward the stairs. 2 of David's security team were already positioned at the bottom, both armed. One of them, a woman named Torres, spoke into her radio. Target acquired. Northeast corner. Attempting entry through the conservatory. Marcus felt rage flood his system. The conservatory? That was Jennifer's old greenhouse. The one room he'd left mostly untouched. The glass walls made it vulnerable, and apparently the Hendersons had figured that out. He moved toward it, ignoring Torres's protest. Through the glass, he could see 2 figures struggling with the door. Robert Henderson, wearing dark clothes and a desperate expression. And beside him, Patricia holding a crowbar. They were actually doing this, breaking into his home, coming for Ivy. Marcus opened the conservatory door before they could break it. Robert spun around, the flashlight in his hand blinding. Where is she? You need to leave, now, before this gets worse for you. Patricia stepped forward, her earlier courtroom composure completely shattered. She's ours. The system gave her to us. We have rights. You forfeited those rights when you locked her in a basement and recorded her crying. We were teaching her discipline, Robert shouted. She needed to learn respect, gratitude. She needed to feel safe, and you terrified her. You don't know anything about her, Patricia spat. You've had her for less than a week. We raised her for 18 months. We fed her, clothed her. You abused her. Robert's face twisted with rage. You rich people think you're so much better than us. Think you can just swoop in and save the day with your money and your lawyers. But you're going to fail. You're going to realize she's too damaged to fix. And when you do, you'll send her back into the system. That's what people like you do. You play hero until it gets hard, then you walk away. Something in Marcus snapped. Not into anger, but into absolute clarity. You're right about one thing, he said quietly. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never been a father. I have no experience with kids. I burn pancakes and buy the wrong cereal, and I have no idea how to braid hair. He stepped closer. But here's what I do know. That little girl survived 4 months in my attic because she was more afraid of you than she was of starving. She chose homelessness over your care. And when I found her, she didn't see a rich man or a stranger. She saw someone as broken as she was, and she decided we could heal together. Poetic, Robert sneered. But it doesn't change the fact that you can't keep her. Yes, I can. And I will. The courts have already decided. You're going to prison, Henderson. Both of you. And Ivy is never, ever going back to you. Robert lunged. It happened fast. He grabbed a terracotta pot from the shelf and swung it at Marcus's head. Marcus ducked, but not quickly enough. The pot shattered against his shoulder, pain exploding through his arm. He fell back, hitting the glass wall hard enough to crack it. Torres and her partner burst into the conservatory, weapons drawn. On the ground. Now! Patricia screamed. Robert tried to run, but David appeared, tackling him into the rosebushes Jennifer had planted years ago. There was shouting, the click of handcuffs, and Patricia sobbing that they were just trying to get their daughter back. Marcus pushed himself up, cradling his injured shoulder. Through the chaos, he saw Ivy standing in the conservatory doorway, still holding his phone, tears streaming down her face. "I told you to stay in your room," he said, his voice rough with pain. "I heard crashing. I thought..." She couldn't finish. David hauled Robert to his feet, the man's face bloody from the rosebush thorns. "You okay?" David asked Marcus. "I'll live. Get them out of here." As the police arrived, Detective Lou had apparently been monitoring the security feed. Marcus finally allowed himself to check his shoulder. It was bruised, bleeding slightly from the pottery shards, but nothing serious. Ivy approached hesitantly. "You're hurt." "I'm fine. You got hurt because of me." "No." Marcus turned to face her fully. "I got hurt protecting someone I care about. That's different. But what if they didn't? And they never will again." Detective Lou appeared. "Mr. Whitmore, paramedics are here. You should get looked at. In a minute." Marcus knelt down to Ivy's level, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. "Listen to me. What happened tonight? This was their choice, not yours. Their desperation, not your fault. You are not responsible for the actions of broken, dangerous people. But, no buts. You survived because you're strong. You're here because you're brave. And you're staying because you're mine now." The words came out before he could think about them, but the moment he said them, he knew they were true. Ivy threw her arms around him. He hugged her back with his good arm, and over her head, he saw David giving him a knowing look. Later, after the paramedics had bandaged his shoulder and the police had taken the Hendersons away in handcuffs, after Angela had been called and assured that Ivy was safe, after the broken glass had been cleaned up and the property resecured, Marcus and Ivy sat together in the library. It was 5 a.m. Neither of them could sleep. "Can I ask you something?" Ivy said. "Anything. Why did you really decide to keep me? Was it just because you felt sorry for me?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "At first, maybe partially, but not in the way you think. I felt sorry for both of us, for you because you'd been failed by every system that should have protected you. And for me, because I'd become the kind of man who could live in a house with another human being for 4 months and never notice." "What changed?" "You did. Reading your diary, I realized you'd been watching me all that time, seeing me at my worst, alone, angry, broken. And instead of judging me, you saw someone who could understand what it felt like to be lost." He paused. "You gave me a purpose I didn't know I needed. To take care of me? To take care of both of us." Ivy leaned against him. "I finished the diary last night, before the alarm went off." Marcus tensed. "There were more entries?" "Just one. The last one. From the night before you found me." "What did it say?" Ivy pulled the diary from where she'd been keeping it and opened to the final page. "I want you to read it. But not yet. Read it after this is all really over. When we know we're safe. When things are normal. Or whatever normal means for us." Marcus took the diary, feeling its weight in a new way. "Okay, I'll wait." As dawn broke over Philadelphia, casting golden light through the library windows, Marcus made a decision. He'd spent 2 years building walls to protect himself from pain. But walls didn't just keep pain out, they kept everything out. Love, hope, connection, purpose. Ivy had scaled his walls without even trying. And in doing so, she'd shown him what he'd been missing. Detective Lou called at 7:30 a.m. "Mrs. Palmer was arrested an hour ago. I tried to board a flight to Mexico. We've got evidence of 16 bribe payments over 2 years, including payments from the Hendersons. Multiple foster children were placed in abusive homes while she looked the other way. How many kids? Marcus asked, his voice hollow. We're still investigating. But Marcus, because of Ivy, because of what you two exposed, we're gonna save a lot of children. The whole foster care system is about to get turned upside down. After he hung up, Marcus looked at Ivy, who was finally sleeping on the library couch. Exhausted from the longest night of her young life, she'd survived 4 months in his attic. She'd survived abusive foster parents. She'd survived a courtroom battle and a home invasion. She'd survived because she was a fighter. And now, so was he.